intent.
You went to the Canton Police Department first before you went to the scene.
I did.
Why did you go to the Canton Police Department first?
I had some winter gear there, including a reflective jacket that I thought would be helpful, given it was dark out. Visibility was very bad.
When you got to the Canton Police Department, did you learn anything from any of your colleagues while at the police department?
The only one colleague at the police department at that time was Officer Kelly Dever.
After you got your gear at the Canton Police Department, did you head towards Fairview?
I did.
Other than the general description that you had heard, did you know anything about what was going on there?
Just that a gentleman was found unconscious in the snow, possibly not breathing.
You mentioned the term unintended death. What does that mean?
An unattended death is a death where someone dies alone, and you don't know the reason. It doesn't mean there's foul play. In fact, 99% of the time, it's natural causes.
Is there a process for the Canton Police Department when they learn of any death, unintended or not? Is there a process you need to follow?
Yes, there is.
And what is that process?
That's to call the Norfolk County DA's office, their CPAC unit, Crime Prevention and Control. They have jurisdictions over deaths and unattended deaths.
You mentioned a CPAC unit. What type of officers or law enforcement is the CPAC unit?
It's manned by the Massachusetts State Police.
Are you required by statute to contact CPAC or the Massachusetts State Police, even if it's an unintended death?
Yes.
Did you follow that process?
Sergeant Lank followed that process.
Is that one of the officers who worked under you?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you know if Sergeant Lank was at the scene when you were leaving Canton, or did you learn at some point when you got there whether Sergeant Lank was at Fairview?
When I got there, I saw the black Toyota Tundra, which is operated by our detectives there, and then I saw him.
When Canton Police Department first contacted the Massachusetts State Police or the CPAC unit about the information, did you have an understanding whether or not the Massachusetts State Police were going to respond or not?
They were not responding.
So when you got to Fairview Road, were there any other law enforcement officers other than Canton police officers?
No, there was not.
When you appeared at Fairview Road or arrived, were you the superior officer on the scene?
I was the highest ranking officer.
As you're pulling up to Fairview that morning, what's the first thing you see when you get there?
As I pull up, I see the last of the fire apparatus pulling away. I get out of the vehicle. The first one I encountered was Sergeant Sean Good, who was the shift supervisor.
Did you see any other of your officers there?
I did. I saw Lieutenant Lank further down, and further down I saw two other cruisers, which ended up being Officer Mullaney and Officer Sarif.
Did any of the cruisers or vehicles have lights on?
They did.
Did you hear any sirens?
No, there wouldn't be any sirens.
Why wouldn't there be?
Sirens are used to move traffic. There was no traffic. It was a blizzard. There were no cars on the road. You might see an occasional plow.
Did you ever...
Why do we spend so much time, so much money doing what we do? Because you both deserve better. No, not better, the best. The best shampoo, the best cleaner, the best eye wash. So, we make the best. But it's more than that. It's not just about the product. It's about your paws, your teeth, your skin, your health, your home, your life. Together, we're Scouts Honor, and we're here for you, you, and you.
About the weather, now that you're standing outside Fairview Road, what's the visibility like? What's the temperature like? What are the conditions like?
So it was terrible. It was blizzard-like. The wind would blow in your face. It would change directions. The snow was an icy snow. In the wind, you had to actually talk loud to be heard. Somebody right next to you, and it was your typical New England blizzard, basically.
At this point, did you have any position as you assessed the area, whether this was a criminal investigation?
When we had no crime at that time.
When you were there, were you looking for anything?
Yes, I was examining the scene.
Okay. At that point, did you have any reason to start a criminal investigation?
Not at that time, no.
When you learned that Mr. O'Keefe was found outside, did you go look at the particular area?
Yes.
Can you describe the area that was shown to you where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
Sure. It was on the left side of the property of 34 Fairview. You could see where first responders and witnesses and police officers had walked up to the area. It was by a flagpole on the property line of number 32 Fairview.
What was the lighting condition at that point in that area?
It was dark. It was sun was coming up, but due to the weather and the cloud cover and the snow, its visibility still was not great.
Were the law enforcement vehicles providing any light for the area?
No.
How about the house? Was there any bright lights coming out of the house illuminating that area?
I didn't see any lights, window lights on. There may have been an exterior, the door light at one or two houses.
In addition to the law enforcement officers that were there, did you see any civilians when you got there?
No, there were no civilians there.
While you were outside looking at the area, did any civilians ever come out?
No, not at all.
Any civilians ever come out of 34 Fairview?
No,
How about next door, 32 Fairview? Did you ever see any civilians come out of that address?
nobody ever came out of the house.
Across the street, is there homes across the street from 34 Fairview?
There is.
Did you see anybody come out of either one of those houses?
Did not see anybody come out of those houses.
When you were outside and you were shown the area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything regarding that area to identify the area itself?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yes. The area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything around that area to identify the area?
Well, it was marked out with crime scene tape at that time. And what I saw was pink blood, and it was in a circular pattern.
Was the crime scene tape holding up at all?
No, it was not. It was blowing wildly in the wind. And at one point, it was actually blowing in. It was triangular, and it was actually blowing into the crime scene.
Was the tape helping at all?
No, it was not.
Was there any use putting a tent up at that point?
No, there wasn't, not due to the high winds.
Did you learn whether any of the officers had, at any point before you got there, gone into Fairview Road?
Yes,
Who did you learn went into Fairview Road?
both Sergeant Good and Detective Sergeant Lake went into Fairview Road.
Did you know how long they were inside for?
What did you know that?
I did not.
At that point, did you go and speak to anybody in any of the nearby homes?
I did not.
When you were at this scene and you saw what was happening in the weather, did you make a decision to do anything?
Yes.
What did you decide you were going to do?
Since the state police were not responding, I decided to process the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found and try to find out why he had the medical episode he was having.
If you understood this to be a medical episode, and at that point you didn't have any information it was a crime scene, why were you taking the time and effort to process the scene under these conditions?
Because that's what we do. Even the hospital, there could be a reason that there's obviously a reason he's there. I think we had a duty and obligation to check around where he was found and see if there was any explanation to what caused his medical condition.
Did you focus on a particular area when you decided to look around?
I did.
What area were you going to look at?
Where it was pointed out he was found and where the blood pattern was.
Were you thinking about looking in any other areas around that?
Not at that time.
Why not?
We didn't have any reason to. We only had the area where he was found.
And at that point, did you have any idea what caused his injuries?
We had none.
At this point, when you were pointed or you're looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found, was the area getting covered up at all?
Yes, it was.
With what?
Snow.
How quickly?
Very quickly. I believe it was forecasted to come down to 1 to 2 inches an hour, if I recall.
Did you have any idea how hard the ground was at that point?
It was frozen.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, did you have any idea?
It was frozen.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
How deep was the snow covering that frozen ground?
Approximately 4 inches at that time.
When you want to look around the area, did you consider using a rake or a shovel?
I did.
And did you?
I did not.
Why didn't you use a shovel at that point?
I was afraid I would miss something or possibly break something.
What could you break with a shovel?
Anything, glass or anything of that nature.
What was your decision about how you would search that area? What did you want to see?
I wanted to see anything that was possible, whether it was any type of weapon or any type of medical bottle or any reason that he could have come to where he was.
Did you think of a way that you could look below the top of the snow without unresting the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude?
Because of the blood, the pink spots I thought might be blood. I thought a leaf blower would be the best method because I have seen it used and to remove light layers of snow, and it can be controlled.
And after having seen that before and making that decision, what was the benefit of a leaf blower over a shovel?
I wasn't going to miss anything with a leaf blower, much better control.
And control, tell us what your intention, what was your hope with the leaf blower?
To clear the area, controlled, slowly, so any potential evidence of what happened to Mr. O'Keefe wouldn't be lost.
Did you have a leaf blower with you?
Did not.
So what did you do?
Sergeant Good volunteered to go get a leaf blower.
Did you remain at the scene?
I did.
And during this time, are you still have no information that it's a crime scene?
We had no information on a crime at that time.
Did Sergeant Good come back with a leaf blower?
He did.
Did you try to get any other items to help you?
Not that I recall.
Okay. When Sergeant Good came back with the leaf blower, did you use it?
I did.
Was it successful?
Very.
Tell us what you did.
I started with low speed and began whisking away the snow. And then I saw how it was uncovering those pink spots were becoming brighter red. So I verified it was frozen or coagulated blood at that time. And so out of the abundance of caution, I decided that that was something we may want to collect.
Why did you want to collect that?
Just out of abundance of caution, DNA. I expected it to be John's DNA.
And
I wasn't going to get a second chance at it. It was either collect it or never have it.
were you making quick decisions under these circumstances?
Yes,
Did you ask somebody to get a container to put the coagulated blood in?
I ended up getting the containers.
Where did you get them from?
I got them from Lieutenant Kelleher, who lived in the neighborhood.
Did Lieutenant Kelleher ever come over to the scene?
He did not.
Did he work for the Canton Police Department?
He did.
Why didn't he come over to the scene with you?
Because he originally thought the scene was at 32.
Sustained.
Did you ask him to come over to the scene to help you?
No,
Did you expect him to come over to help you?
no,
Did you prefer he not?
correct.
So when you get the containers, were they plastic cups?
Yes, they were red Solo cups.
And what was the purpose of using the red Solo cups?
They were plastic. They weren't going to leak. They weren't going to get soggy. They were large. I needed a small sample. My thought was because it was frozen or coagulated, that we could collect it, transport it, and transfer it to the crime lab, who could extract the DNA however they saw best fit.
Do sometimes the crime lab test evidence and sometimes not?
Of course,
Is
yes.
that your decision?
No,
You were telling us about the leaf blower. Does it serve to excavate the area?
it did.
Did you begin that process?
I did.
And when you did that, did you try to memorialize it?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I had Sergeant Good videotape it.
Why did you have Sergeant Good memorialize your efforts to excavate the area?
I thought someone may wonder why I decided to use a leaf blower, so I wanted to demonstrate its effectiveness.
I'm going to move to introduce two videos that council has.
So there's no objection to these videos, right?
Shopping for car insurance doesn't have to be a long road. Instead, avoid all the hassle with Jerry. Forget about filling the
With the court's permission, can I show the jury the videos?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, can we show number one, please? Could you, Ms. Gilman, stop at the end of the video so it's a still frame? That's good right there. Sir, who's the person holding the leaf blower?
That is me.
Did the leaf blower work as you had hoped?
It was great.
You see other footprints around that area.
Correct.
Do you know how those footprints got there?
Some of them were from first responders. Some of them were for witnesses. The ones up top by the flagpole were for when the officers put out the crime scene tape.
Did officers try to wrap the crime scene tape around the flagpole?
They did wrap it around the flagpole, yes.
I see. And from that vantage point, could you see the side and front yard?
Yes.
Did the side yard have any footprints or evidence that anything was dragged through the side yard?
No, not at all.
How about the front yard? Did the front yard have any evidence that anybody had walked across it or dragged anything across it?
It had one set of prints from Sergeant Lang.
Other than Sergeant Lang's footprints across the front yard, was there any other impediment?
No, not that I saw.
I'm going to ask if we could see the second video, please, Ms. Gilman. Could you stop there, please? You see the end of the leaf blower?
I do.
There's an object just below it at like 7 o'clock. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you discover something in that area?
We did.
What did you discover?
It's a cocktail glass.
Was it, did it have any damage to it?
It did.
Describe that for us.
It was broken on the top.
Could you continue the video, please, Ms. Gilman? Stop, please. There's some red spots. Is that what you identified as coagulated blood?
That is.
Below some of those spots and to the left, there's an area that's not white. It's brownish. Do you know what that is?
That's, I believe, just bare ground.
If we could finish the video, please. Okay. Thank you. Could have the lights on, please. Did you or any officer at your direction obtain and preserve that broken cocktail glass?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you two photographs. The first photograph, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It's a after we exposed the broken, I exposed the broken glass.
Is the broken glass depicted in that photograph?
It is.
Is that similar or substantially the same way it appeared to you that morning?
That's exactly how it appeared, yes.
Do you know if that photograph was taken as a still image of the video or not?
I do not.
Okay. Second photograph, can we take a look at that,
That's a close-up of the cocktail glass.
of the same photo?
It is, yes.
I'd move these two photographs into evidence, please.
Okay, do you want it to be 52 and 52A?
Please, Your Honor.
This is 52 and 52A.
Lieutenant, what was done with that cocktail glass?
It was bagged and seized as evidence.
Was it brought anywhere that morning?
It was brought back to Canton Police Headquarters.
What happens when it gets back to Canton Police Headquarters?
It gets logged into evidence and it's assigned an evidence number. The officer types in a description of the item. In this case, it was a broken cocktail glass or broken glass. And once he hits the space bar, it automatically generates a property number for it. And I believe in this case, it was 22-18-PR, which means 22 is the year, 2022. 18 is how many pieces of evidence the department as a whole had collected that year so far. And PR, I believe, means property room.
Why is it assigned a particular number?
Everything is assigned a number by the computer.
You said it's brought to the evidence room. Is that a separate or a special place?
So we have two rooms. We have a temporary evidence room, and then there's a permanent evidence room. Only two people have access to the permanent evidence room.
Is there a reason why access to the evidence room is limited?
There is,
Why?
for security.
Even in a police department, the evidence room is limited as far as people who have access?
That is correct.
In the evidence room, is there an officer assigned as an evidence officer?
Not full-time. There is an assigned admin sergeant who is assigned as the evidence officer.
Does anything happen specifically with the evidence? Is it packaged or stored in any particular way?
The glass was put into a locker, I believe, and temporary evidence. And then it's the evidence sergeant's job to retrieve it. But in this case, we were going to transfer it to the state police.
Was it transferred to the state police at some point?
It was.
I'll allow it.
Were you part of the transition of that item to the state police?
I was.
And when was it transitioned and to who?
It was on February 1st, 2022, and it was to a criminalist from
Yeah.
the Massachusetts State Crime Lab.
Do you know who the criminalist was?
I don't know the name, no.
Did the criminalist come to your department or did you bring the item to them?
They came to our department.
In addition to the glass, there was plastic cups with coagulated blood.
That's correct.
What did you do with those cups?
Those were placed in temporary evidence and placed in a refrigerated unit.
To carry them from Fairview to the police department, did you hold the actual cups Did you bring that piece of evidence, the broken glass, with you today?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to approach the witness. Handing you a box, gloves, and some scissors. Let me ask you about that box. It has red tape on it. Why?
It's a secure and transfer of custody.
Test on the mic 1, 2. Test on the mic 1, 2, and 2. Test. All right. Let me know if you can hear me on YouTube. Let me know if you can hear over here. Oh, Hannah, Bobana, 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 Beepa, Bobana. Hannah just subscribed. You guys are so amazing. They are still on sidebar. That's why you can't hear anything. I don't know if the camo is going to work-o, but we will try-o. Thank you, guys. How many in here have been following the Karen Reed trial from day one? Not me. I just joined. I mean, I knew about it for like the last year, but oh, yay. Oh, it didn't work. Hold on a minute. Technical difficulties. Mary says, of course, Attorney Alley has. Taylor, thank you for your heart, me. I have not. I really just come into true crime. The true crime part of TikTok about a year and a half ago ish. Yeah. Thank you, Crystal. We have 2 viewers over there. Thank you. Holy cow. Working on Mike, on YT, and the Ticker Talker. And if I can just get my camel to work, this will be a perfect day. Oh, wait, camo. Except for breaking my stand to my camera, that did not go well with me. We're just waiting on the sidebar to get done here, and we are scanning to try to get my face on the big YT. Hi, Linda. We are talking about Karen Reed. The Karen Reed trial is on day 9, and we are waiting for them to come back from sidebar. We're just kind of hanging out here. When we come in, start this clapping. Here we go. They're coming back.
Lieutenant, before you open the box, were you one of the officers that discovered that broken glass?
Yes.
Did you personally bring the glass from Fairview to Canton?
No.
Do you know who did?
Yes.
Who?
Detective Sergeant Lang.
Sergeant Lang?
Yes.
When you went back,
Juvederm collection of fillers. The filler brand patients trust and recommend. Add volume to get smooth, natural-looking, long-lasting results with the Juvederm collection of fillers.
Oh,
And
sorry.
given to the person from the forensic unit?
Yes, that was me.
I'm sorry. You
Did
had
you
to
have a
listen to the
responsibility
commercial.
and role in that process, or were you a passive observer?
I had an active role. I was the chain of custody. I was turning it over to the criminalist to the state police lab.
After that glass was given to the criminalist, did you ever have possession of it again?
Never.
Did you ever package it or touch it again in any way?
No, never.
Did you ever process it in any way?
No,
Did
that's
you
not.
put it in that box and tape it up yourself?
No.
Okay, I'm going to now ask you to open the box, please. Is there an item in that bag?
There is.
Would you please open the bag and show us what's in that bag?
Sorry. I know, Crystal Pistol. Hey guys, I am live here and on YouTube right now. We are watching the day 9 trial of Karen Ring. The lieutenant is on the stand right now, and he's opening up a bag of evidence. So you can join me on the Big YT if you want to talk and be able to see it while we talk. Or you can stay here and just listen. Totally up to you.
Thank you. If you could put it back in the bag and the bag back in the box, please.
We're just listening to Karen Ring. All day now. Oh, that's a big box of evidence.
Lieutenant Gallagher, does that appear to be the same item that you found in the area where John O'Keefe was at Fairview that morning?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to have the box and the item marked for identification, please.
Okay.
What is he about to pull out of that big box?
With a Q for ID.
When you were looking around the area that was pointed out to you as where John O'Keefe was found, did you expand across the front lawn into the street during your search?
I know we didn't, with the exception of uncovering the 6-foot asphalt berm.
Did you say 6 foot or is it?
Excuse me, 6-inch.
What's a berm?
It's basically a curbing, but it's made of asphalt. It's curved. You probably have seen it. It's asphalt. It's curved. It separates the street from property line.
Why did you clear that piece?
Wanted to see. We're trying to find out why John was having a medical issue, and we didn't know if he could have tripped over a curbing
Now,
or what turned out to
you
be
can kind of see
an asphalt
in the
berm
background
and
here.
possibly
And
his
you can
head.
see me on YouTube.
After you
Now
made
I need
efforts to look
another
in that
phone
area,
so I can
did
see
you
your
return to the
comments on
Canton Police
YT.
Department?
I did.
About what time?
It was shortly after 8 a.m.
After you returned to the Canton
Thank
Police
you for the
Department, did you
roses. Thank you, Karen.
receive any information or have a reason to return back
We
to
have
Fairview?
3
Yes.
subscribers.
About what
We only
time?
need 2 more.
A
2 more.
little after 9 o'clock.
Why did you go back to Fairview after 9 o'clock?
Sergeant Lank got a phone call that Jen McCabe had more information
And where did you understand Mrs. McCabe was?
at 34 Fairview.
Did you go back to 34 Fairview?
I did.
Did you go with anybody?
Roger.
I went with Sergeant Lank
Did you travel together or separate?
together.
When you got back to 34 Fairview outside, what did you do?
We parked in the driveway. We walked up, and next to the garage, there's a side door. I don't know if we rang the bell or knocked, but Brian Albert, the homeowner, answered the door.
As you walked up to the door, did you have a chance to look around at the doors in the area in front of that side door?
Yes.
Did you see anything out of place?
No.
You've been a
Or
police officer at that
members of
point
the
for a long time.
Yes.
I guess I
Are
can
you-
escape
do you
out
receive
of
any
it every
training
now and
in
then to see what you guys
observing?
are saying.
Areas or people?
Always.
What type of training? What are you told to look for when you're speaking to people?
I've been BOSAR trained, which is behavioral observation, suspicious activity training. And you look for clues when you're speaking to people, whether they cross their legs, cross their arms, there's certain behavioral characteristics.
At this point, did you have any understanding that this would later be a crime scene?
I did, yes.
What happened?
Is he the one that went to arrest her the second
How
time?
did you come to that conclusion?
This guy?
Oh,
Does anybody
not at
remember?
that
Oh,
time.
not at that time.
No,
Okay.
not at that time.
When it was
When you
upgraded
went
with
into the
murder?
house, what part of the house did you go into?
I went into the room. It's adjacent to the kitchen, and I stood there with Brian Albert.
Can you describe what kind of room that would be?
Yeah, it was just a typical family room type room. It was not large. It was between the garage and the kitchen.
You met with Brian Albert.
Hey, Renee.
Brian Albert answered the door and let us into the house.
Did you understand what his relationship was to that house?
He was the homeowner.
Did Sergeant Lang walk in
That's
with
when you
you?
come in,
He
start
did.
tapping
Did he
in,
stay in that living area?
start
No,
talking
he
about
went to the
Jerry
kitchen
and
area
talking about
and
the
sat
people
down
in
with
here
Jen McCabe.
who might
Could
be
you see the
interested
kitchen
in
area
the
from where
trial.
you were?
I could see a
So
portion of the
You're
kitchen area.
commenting
Did you see
in,
anybody else in the
interaction
kitchen area
with
with Mrs. McCabe and Sergeant Lang?
There were people in the kitchen area. There was nobody with Sergeant
for your
Lang.
help,
or Ms.
Crystal.
McCabe.
Could you hear their conversation?
No,
Were you trying to listen?
No.
Were you speaking to Mr. Albert?
I was.
Did you take the time to make observations of him?
Lieutenant Day 9 Karen Reed
Did you
Trout.
take the time to make observations of him?
Yes,
Did you speak to him?
yes,
Did he speak to you?
yes.
Awesome.
Was there anything about his mannerisms or affect that caused you any
We have
concern?
3.3
No, it was just a social conversation. There was nothing of concern at all.
Was there anything about it that caused you to hone in or be concerned?
No,
I'll allow that.
no.
Did you get a chance to look around that living area?
The judge
at the
didn't even
items?
thinking about what.
I didn't
Wow.
look around, just with my eyes.
Did you get to see that area?
I did.
Did you see anything broken or looked out of place?
No, nothing.
Anything that caused you any type of concern?
Nothing.
When you looked towards the
Well,
kitchen, did you see anything that
Want to take down the
looked
building.
different or suspicious in any way?
Nothing.
Was the interaction, did it cause you any alarm or concerns?
No.
After Sergeant Lang had an opportunity to speak to Mrs. McCabe and you spoke to Brian Albert, what did you do next?
We left.
Where did you go?
We went back to the police department and were informed that the state police were going to respond to the hospital and that we didn't need to respond to the hospital.
When you heard that the state police was then going to get involved in the investigation, what does Canton do when the state police takes over an investigation?
Flashback
Well,
finding
it
23
was based off of a
individuals.
conversation I had with my chief in the detective sergeant's office.
Was there a decision about Canton's involvement in the ongoing investigation?
There was
What was that decision?
that we should recuse ourselves from any further investigative interviews.
And why was that?
Because our best detective, his name was Kevin Albert, and he was the brother of the homeowner. And I didn't want any potential bias, whether unconscious or subjective, to be perceived by the O'Keefe's, by the O'Keefe family.
So when the state police got involved and you had the conversation with the chief, was that the
Yes,
end of
this is
your
live, Emma.
efforts towards this?
It was the end of our efforts until, I helped facilitate during the search warrant on February 1st.
And so at some point, was the defendant's Lexus brought to the Canton Police Department?
It was.
Was it put in a particular area at the Canton Police Department?
It was.
What area?
The Sally Port.
What's a Sally Port?
Sally Port is where, when we have an arrest, we bring our prisoners in. It's basically a large garage. It has 4 doors numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. We typically go in door 4 and pull towards door 3. Door 4 is lowered, and then prisoners are walked into the booking area, which is also secure. The exterior doors to the Sally Port can only be opened by the dispatch council.
When crime scene services came to look at the car, was that the same day, the 29th, or later time?
No, it was February 1st.
Did the Lexus remain in the Sally Port area from the 29th until February 1st?
Yes.
When representatives from the crime lab, from the Massachusetts State Police came on February 1st, Who provided them access to the Lexus?
I was one of the people there that was there. I don't know if I provided them direct access, but I certainly would have. And I assisted them if they needed things. That's when the chain of custody, the exchange of custody for the blood samples and the glass occurred as well.
And during their processing of the Lexus, were you there for parts of it?
I was in and out, yes, but I did not partake.
Thank you very much.
Please.
There you go. Somebody had asked about my eyeshadow, so I've pinned all of Adriana Nicole.
Mr. Jackson, is this video up there yours or is it?
Kind that I'm
Come on.
wearing. Forgot the code, but it's all in her palette. So I pinned it for just a second, but I'll have to take it down so we don't get in trouble. So if you are interested in
May I, Your Honor?
the
Yes.
eyeshadow, it's Adriana Nicole, and I've got that pinned for just a second.
Mr. Gallagher, you have already established that you were at the scene on January 29th, early morning, January 29th, 2022. We've seen the video of the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
So you were integral to at least an initial search of the scene, which recovered the drinking glass that you've shown us, as well as some of the blood
It's showing Karen.
byproduct that you've talked about.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. You were the ranking person on the scene. You've already described that.
Yes, that is correct.
There were also several other officers from Canton PD who were there with you.
Yes, there was 4 other officers,
Can
yes.
you just name those other officers?
Yeah, Detective Sergeant Lank, Lank, Detective Sergeant Good, Goode, Officer Mullaney, Mullaney, and Officer Saraf, Saraf.
Okay.
Warm weather has arrived, so stay comfortable with an AC system from Pipe Wrench, voted top HVAC company in Knoxville. We
Oh, there was a Knox.
Given the fact that you were the ranking officer, the way that it works in a police department is everybody sort of reports up the chain of command, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So they would have all reported up to you in some particular.
That's correct.
And then, of course, you report to I think you're the deputy chief, and then the deputy chief reports on up to the chief,
That
correct?
is correct.
You were involved in not only the exposing of some of that blood byproduct, but also exposing the glass with the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
You were responsible for utilizing certain equipment. You chose a leaf blower at the time, correct?
I
There was also, I'm guessing, there was also some use of your hands and or the gloved hands with some others to recover some of the items.
Yeah, I didn't use my hands.
How did you get the glass into a bag?
That was Detective Sergeant Lank.
Somebody had to pick it up, right?
Correct.
That's what I mean. The use of hands to manipulate some of the evidence, correct?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't understand that question.
That's okay.
I thought you were speaking about me.
Probably my fault, not yours.
Nope, that's okay.
There was also some plastic cups that we've talked about. We'll talk more about those in a second. Those were utilized as well, correct?
You were, yes.
And you were responsible for the use of those as well.
Yes, it was
So,
my decision, yes.
In terms of the search of the scene, the recovery of evidence, the recovery of biological material, the use of tools to recover those biological materials, all of that rested at least ultimately at the scene on your shoulders, correct?
Yes, it did.
Isn't it true that you weren't interviewed in this case with regard to anything having to do with this case until April 3rd, 2024, correct?
Yes, we can call it an interview. It's when I met with the prosecutor, yes.
And that was about 2.5 years, nearly 2.5 years after this incident, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Michael Proctor, you know that name.
In April?
Who's Michael Proctor?
He was one of the troopers assigned to investigate the case.
As a matter of fact, he was the lead investigator for the case, correct?
I don't know if he was lead or Trooper Mechanic. I don't know.
As you sit here, you don't know that Michael Proctor was the lead case agent for...
I know he was one of them, yes.
Okay. Do you know that he was the lead investigator assigned to the case?
I don't. I had nothing to do with the DA's office.
Right. I know you didn't have...
I don't know how they assign their cases, counsel. I don't know what you want me to say. I can't say what I don't know.
Mr. Gallagher, I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if...
I did not know he was lead. I know he was one of the leads.
Okay.
I believe they do it in a tandem, but I'm not sure.
Okay. He may have had a partner, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But it's not unusual to have a lead case agent, the person who's responsible for most of the search warrant writing and the memorialization of documentation of evidence collection and the movement of evidence and booking into evidence, things like that.
That is correct, but I don't know anything about who wrote their affidavits or who logged their evidence, and I wouldn't know that.
You're also familiar with Yuri Buchanan, correct?
I know who he is.
You're also familiar with Lieutenant Tully.
I know, yes.
They're all Massachusetts State Police officers, correct?
Yes, they all are.
Did
yes.
Michael Proctor interview you before April of 2024?
He did not.
Did Yuri Buchanan interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did
Did
not.
Lieutenant Tully interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did not.
Did anybody else from the Canton Police Department, your deputy chief or the chief, interview you formally about your conduct and responsibilities before April of 2024?
I don't understand that question.
Did anybody at Canton PD, separating out Massachusetts State Police,
Correct.
did you sit down at Canton PD and provide an interview with anybody at Canton PD about your conduct at the scene?
What do you mean by conduct?
Going to the scene, collecting evidence, securing evidence, transporting evidence, booking evidence, those kinds of things. Your conduct at the scene, sir.
Yeah, I briefed my superiors, yes.
Okay, other than briefing, was there a formal report
I'm
written
also live on YouTube, guys.
or a formal interview
You
conducted
watch
of you?
it and discuss it
absolutely
over
not.
here. I'm
Um,
also live over there. I'm also live over there.
Tell us when you wrote your report about what happened at the scene, memorializing what you did at the scene.
I didn't.
You didn't write a report?
About the scene that day at the scene?
Correct, about this
I
investigation.
only did the metadata report. I did not write a report at the scene.
You never, in fact, the fact is you never wrote any report about what happened at the scene, correct?
Correct.
You didn't memorialize that in any
Dog,
formal
I just had
way
it pinned.
on Canton PD letterhead to describe what you did and how you did it at the scene.
I think this is going to be in the monochrome. I have it pinned right now. It's Adriana Nicole. Adriana.
Normally, when you report to a scene as a first responder, you would be expected
I can unpin it.
to write a report about
So,
that, whatever that conduct is.
I'm not the supervisor, no.
They're going to say, did I?
What if you're the ranking person at a scene that ultimately turns into a homicide scene?
Well, we don't know it's a homicide scene at this time. We don't even know there's a crime committed at this time. My
Understood.
responsibilities
Otherwise, it's a
are to make sure reports are written, not to necessarily write the reports myself. I'm the supervisor. It's
Although-
my job to make sure reports are written, evidence is logged,
Didn't
those
actually-
types of things.
Under ordinary circumstances, you would respond to a scene as a supervisor and you would oversee what other people are doing. What you're
That's
doing.
correct.
Can I finish?
Sure.
I don't want to talk over each
I
other.
apologize.
You would want to supervise or oversee what your subordinate officers,
We're having a
whatever
hearing.
he or she might be doing or they might be doing. You're going to oversee that. But they're the ones actually conducting the investigation or picking up evidence or doing the interviews, writing those things. That nature.
Correct.
Hearing
Detective
room.
Sergeant
Hearing
Lake's
room.
investigation, yes.
Dana.
So in that circumstance,
Call number
you
2.
wouldn't be expected to write a report because all
I'm
of that
also live on
conduct
Big
is
Watch TV. If
memorialized
anyone's
by
listening,
others
you keep tapping
subordinate
to stop
to
in this
supervise,
button.
correct?
Tap as you
But in this case, quite the opposite happened. You were the one that was in the video utilizing the leaf blower, correct?
That's correct.
You were the one that actually exposed the drinking glass, correct?
Correct, yes.
You noted the drinking glass and actually called somebody else over to take a look at it, correct?
That's correct.
You directed someone, Sergeant Lang, to pick up the drinking glass and recover it as a potential piece of evidence,
That is
correct?
correct.
You noted the blood or the coagulation of blood in and around that area, correct?
That is correct.
You noted where you believe the drinking glass was, in other words, what location, if there were grid coordinates, where it would be, correct?
Correct.
And you instructed others to transport that important evidence back to Canton PD to have it booked, correct?
That is correct.
You also secured the plastic containers in which to recover the blood.
That is
right?
correct.
You also directed someone to get a bag to put the plastic containers in and ultimately transport it, correct?
That is correct.
So you would agree with me, Mr. Gallagher, that in this circumstance, you were the centerpiece
What pal?
of the recovery of evidence,
Now,
and the
girl.
investigation as it was at that time, in that limited context. You were the centerpiece of what was happening at the scene, correct?
And I made sure it was documented by Detective Sergeant Lang.
But you didn't find it important enough to write a report yourself.
I think that's poor misrepresentation. There's a person fighting for their life. It was very important.
When you were there at the scene at what time was it, by the way?
I got there shortly after 7.
Okay, you knew that that person who was fighting for his life had already been transported and was in good care, as best care we can provide at Good Samaritan Hospital, correct?
That is correct.
So certainly you're not excusing away the idea that you didn't memorialize your conduct because you were too busy fighting for someone's life.
Pink love.
That's not what you're saying.
No, definitely not what I'm
Okay.
saying.
I wouldn't investigate anything because I'm a true crime content creator. Okay. That don't make any sense, honey.
Obviously,
Okay.
reporting to a scene and supervising a scene is one thing, but actually gathering evidence is a whole next level. You would agree with that?
Sure.
Because just to put a fine point on it, responding to a scene as a supervisor, you want to make sure everybody's doing their duty, but the officer or officers, who, for instance, uncover, let's say it's a knife or a gun or some weapon or something like that.
What?
Actually documenting and picking up that evidence.
sorry.
Handling it
I'm
up in
sorry,
an appropriate way. That is all
It's
highly, highly technical. It's very important to get it right and memorialize it all.
I thought
correct?
you were
That is correct.
trying to come in and throw.
That's why you're highly trained to memorialize and report everything that you do in that regard in a report that can later be used forensically. In other words, in a courtroom setting, to recreate as best you can with as much detail as you can exactly what you did and how you did it and where it was done. Correct?
Sure. Yes.
Happy in the house. Karen Reed in my.
Officer Lank wrote a report in this case.
What do you think?
Did Officer Mullaney?
I believe he did. Yes.
Did Officer Seraph?
Yes.
Officer Good? Sergeant
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
But you did not.
I did not.
Hey, Missy Jessie. This is not guilty.
Who was the first officer to find any potential physical evidence at the scene, be it blood or glass?
I can't answer that. It was not me. I was not the first thing that was spotted was the pink spotting, not the glass.
Okay. Who was the first person to see the glass?
I think it was
Brandon.
myself as I uncovered it with the leaf blower.
What did he do?
One of the important things that we've talked about, Mr. Gallagher, is documenting
What did he do, Mountain
the
Girl?
details of evidence recovery, not just the fact that something was recovered, correct?
That's correct.
So you'd want to know what time of day it was recovered, correct?
Sure.
You'd want to know who was there and who was around when it was recovered, correct?
Yes.
You'd want to know what the item is, the condition of the item, right?
Yes.
You'd also want to know exactly where it's recovered, correct?
Yes.
In other words, as best you can to pinpoint
Oh,
the exact location where an item was found. That could play a huge role in any investigation, be it criminal or otherwise.
It could. It could.
oh, Christy, this is day 9.
Did
Which
you
I-
diagram
Thanks.
or draw a diagram back at Canton PD or
I did
out
not.
at the scene?
No.
About where that glass was found?
No, I did no reports or diagrams.
If you're just
Did you diagram exactly where
on the big
you
one,
recovered the blood spots that you
There's
did
12.
recover?
or in exchange of, remember to follow me over there. I'm live over there as well.
Did you at least, if you didn't write a report, did you at least take notes on a pad about what you were doing?
The conditions weren't, it was pretty hard to take notes at that time, but I did not take notes, no.
States. Word. What?
At some point, you mentioned
the
a
FBI.
person by the name of
him?
Tom Kelleher, Deputy Chief Kelleher.
Hold on.
Home. It's where we do the things we love with the people we love. So what if we live tomorrow in the same place as we did yesterday?
Hold on a minute. I've wrote that down. I didn't know that was going on, and they've arrested him. Ugh. It's not. It's making me watch these commercials. Chrissy says, I keep hearing about her friends and wanted to hear her testimony. And Tatted Queen says, Karen, I think Karen is innocent.
Deputy Chief and Chief.
Okay.
Wow, Mountain.
When you responded to the scene, Deputy Chief Kelleher did not come out of his house and take over the investigation, correct?
Listen to my
Correct.
That was yours to
on Spotify.
detail,
That is correct.
at least while you were there.
That
Or
is
behind full doors. Instead of closed doors. I know that.
So can you describe what you did to preserve the crime scene? I'm sorry, to preserve the scene, because at that time you said you did not know if it was a crime
This
scene.
is what I'm interested in.
That's correct.
What did you do
I
in
mean,
terms of actually preserving the scene for later investigation? What steps did you take?
for later? Can you explain later investigation?
So let me take a step back.
Sure.
Have you been trained to preserve scenes?
Yes.
Okay, what's the reason that you want to preserve a scene? What does that mean?
Collect evidence.
Collect evidence and make sure nothing is disturbed, correct?
Correct.
Civilians can't kind of traipse through or walk through evidence, correct?
That's correct.
You've heard the phrase forensically, evidence in, evidence out. Someone traipses through a crime scene, you bring
Correct.
evidence with you, and you take it back out, it's on your shoes or on your feet or your
Back.
breath or saliva, whatever it might be.
Very familiar with that, yes.
Preserving the scene is best efforts, it's best practices to make sure that nothing is moved.
Pink Slugger, I just
touch,
typed it as you can't sit at our table.
That's correct, and that's what was done here.
What did you do? That's my question. What did you do to preserve that scene?
So there were no civilians ever to trample through. Were rescue efforts made on Mr. O'Keefe? Yes, that's priority. So rescue workers do go into any type of scene. Medical life-saving measures come first. Once all apparatus was off scene, the original officers put out crime scene tape to mark an area. And later, it was documented, it was photographed, and evidence was collected.
And it was searched by you, at least initially with the leaf blower.
Correct.
Okay. So you were interested in the area that, by the way, I want to clear this up, make sure I'm not mistaken. You described for Mr. Brennan basically where Mr. O'Keefe's body.
I got it wrote down
Yes.
too.
You never saw his body in situ. You never saw his body in place.
That is correct.
You know it.
You were told by Sergeant Lang generally where his body was, correct?
Yes, and Sergeant Lank actually never saw Mr. O'Keefe either.
That's my next.
Mountain Girl.
And Mr. Good, and Sergeant Good as well.
Right. Never saw, Sergeant Lang never
Get
saw
new
Sergeant O'Keefe actually in place, correct?
That is correct.
So you're receiving information from Sergeant Lank that he did not have personal knowledge of, and then you're providing that information later to crime scene investigators who are trying to establish a diagram or some sort of a chart about where that
Mm-hmm.
where that was, where the drinking glass was, where his body was, correct?
No, I never spoke to anybody in that manner about that.
Didn't you ultimately go out to the scene along with others at Massachusetts State Police when they had a drone overhead?
No, you're mistaken. I can clarify it for you if you wish.
Sure.
So on February 1st, after the execution of the warrant, they wanted to go down to the scene. It was Trooper Proctor and somebody from the CARS team. I'm not sure of the name. Once they got down there, I did show them where I was shown John O'Keefe was. They did want to put up a drone, but they could not do it because they were too close to Norwood Airport and because of FAA regulations.
Okay.
And that was the last of my involvement with that. I hope that clarifies things for you.
Forget the drone. I'm interested in the first part, which was you accompanied
Oh Lord.
Proctor.
Now, girl, thank you
Correct.
for following me. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank
There
you.
were other members of
my name
CARS,
is here.
C-A-R-S.
Yeah.
I think there was one. Crash accident reconstruction section, I'm assuming.
Okay, so it's a forensic, a member of MSP who does forensic diagrams, correct?
I would say, I don't know if they do diagrams. I don't know what they do.
Or reconstruction of some sort.
Sure, reconstruction of some sort.
So you were there to help provide information about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
And be a Canton police officer present in case any neighbors had come out.
So you were there to help provide information about, or at least you did provide information to them about where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
Oh, sure, yes.
Except you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe's body, did you?
No, I did not.
So that was a guess on your part.
Right.
It wasn't, it was what I was shown. It's the information I had.
Yeah, it was the information we were told by Sergeant
Yeah.
Blank, correct?
Yes,
How you doing?
Also didn't see John O'Keefe in place on the ground at 34 Fairview, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So his would be a guess also, correct?
Well, we're going backwards. So he was told by Sergeant Good and et cetera. So it was information passed along, which is what police officers do.
Right. But the police officer that was out there at the scene, who was helping the reconstructionist establish the formal report, and the CARS report was an officer who not only didn't see where John O'Keefe's body was, you got information about where John's body was from someone who didn't see it either. Correct? Can we at least agree on
no.
that?
You have to go back to the beginning. I didn't understand the beginning of that question.
Sure,
It was very
I'll try it
long.
again. The point is,
Hey,
Mr.
Lauren,
Gallagher,
listen.
you happen to be tapped as the
Hard
person who is
control.
going to assist the CARS folks, the MSP, in creating their CARS,
No.
ultimately their CARS report.
No.
Isn't it true that you accompanied Trooper Proctor and members of the CARS unit to document Fairview Road and the scene of the incident?
Yeah, I thought I explained it could not be done.
Okay.
So
I'm not
I
asking
wasn't,
you-
I only went to show them where Mr. O'Keefe was and in case any neighbors came out. I wasn't there to assist in any documentation at all.
You were there.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, Cuban Mom. Thank you for being in here.
You, Brian Tully.
Honey one.
I do.
So,
You reviewed Brian Tully's
I'll
report.
be-
I have not. You showed me one section of it.
Is it true that what you actually told Brian Tully is that you went with Trooper Proctor and you're already shaking your head now. I didn't finish the question.
No.
I got that part wrong. You accompanied Trooper Proctor?
No, what's wrong is I was interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That was a meeting I had with Prosecutor Lally.
Okay.
Trooper Tully was present. Trooper Tully never asked me any question. I don't recall Trooper
I
Tully
see.
ever asking me a question, sir.
So let me be a little bit more defined. So in Trooper Tully's report, where he reports what you said, you were actually talking to Adam Lally, my colleague sitting up in front.
Correct.
Okay. So now we got that cleared up. Let me ask you again. Did you say in front of Trooper Tully that you accompanied Trooper Proctor and members of the CARS unit to document Fairview Road?
Meaning they were documenting Fairview Road. It's not clear. The report's not clear. They were going to document Fairview Road, not me.
So you just said something that I want to follow up on.
Okay,
The report's not clear, correct?
that's correct.
So that's an inaccurate report.
I wouldn't call it inaccurate at all. I'm just saying you're misinterpreting the wording.
I see. And I'm misinterpreting it even though I just read it directly from the report.
Yeah, sometimes sentences have different meanings.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
We're having a listen party.
The reality is you did end up going to the
I'm
scene.
also
correct?
liable to be.
I did.
And you accompanied,
If you want to hop over.
I don't want to use a word that you'll challenge, you went with Trooper Proctor, correct?
I took my cruise into 34
Okay.
Fairview, yes.
You were there at the same time Trooper Proctor was?
Yes,
And you were aware that the CARS team was there
I have it.
so that they could document
Amongst
the
yourself,
scene,
just talk
correct?
common.
I don't know what the
Thank you.
purpose of the drone was. I'm not familiar with that section. I thought I answered that question. I'm not familiar with what they do.
But you do believe that as you sit here, you were there, we weren't. You do
Right.
believe that that's the reason that they were there was to document the scene.
Put up a drone.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean by document. I don't know if it was to photograph, I guess, which if you mean by document photograph, I guess it could, I would agree. If it means take measurements, I wouldn't know.
Okay. Did you tell any of the members of the CARS team where you believed John's body was?
I believe it was Trooper Proctor, but I believe he was there, yes.
Trooper Proctor obviously was not there when John's body was there either, correct?
That is correct,
So
yes,
he would have gotten that information.
from you. That is correct.
So now that's.
Karen Reed, Dana,
It's probably more, quite honestly, yeah,
Well, I'm talking about this report,
Lieutenant.
correct.
CARS report. Had 3 people in line, none of whom saw John O'Keefe's body as it lay in the lawn when he was recovered.
That is correct, yes.
And there's no photographs
Of,
of Mr. O'Keefe
oh, no,
at the location.
no, we wouldn't, nobody would photograph somebody undergoing life-saving measures. Wouldn't be appropriate.
There's no video specifically.
They wouldn't take
They
video of
did.
somebody
did it
undergoing
there's
life-saving measurements
There's no
either.
body cam.
every moment.
We don't have body cameras.
There's no dash cam that shows it.
Well, dash cameras would be on the road. Mr. O'Keefe was approximately 8 to 10 feet off the road.
Well, hang on a second. You're not sure where Mr. O'Keefe was because you never saw him.
That's why I used a
Whatever.
range, yes.
We hear.
I know where the blood was, I know where the glass was.
Right. You don't know if he was 7 to 9 feet off.
That's correct.
4 to 12 feet off.
That
You can't
is-
say.
That's a shocker.
Only approximately, you are correct, yes.
No freaking body cams in 2025.
You did meet with Officer Seraph. You met with all the officers when you arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes,
And Officer Seraph had been there from the beginning of the morning.
yes.
Officer Seraph didn't report to you at that time any statements attributable to my client. Did
He did not know.
you later went back to 34 Fairview with Sergeant Lank,
That's correct.
and you rode back.
Exactly.
Did you ride back to Canton PD with Sergeant Lank or separate cruisers?
Which time? I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
That's a vague question on my part. You went back to 34 Fairview with just Officer Lank, and you described the circumstance in which you went in, you were let in by Brian Albert. He went to the kitchen. You were in the family room or some other place.
Right by the kitchen, yeah.
Right by the
room
kitchen.
off the kitchen, yes.
Okay, so right next to where he was interviewing
That's correct.
Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
Did you
Should be like that.
Want to make a big impact without getting lost in a big system?
It should be like that everywhere, Emma. Sorry for the commercial it makes us watch. But yes, absolutely. I'm shocked that they don't have any body cam.
What about any conversation that you had with Officer Seraph? You didn't write a report
Not-
about any conversation you had with Sergeant
Yeah.
Lank.
No, they're responsible for writing their own reports.
Got it.
I'm
You
shocked.
did say that let me back up and ask a different question. You testified about a year ago in another proceeding.
There's
You
my
talked a
vote.
little bit about the evidence collection of the biological material, the blood, or the, as you, I'm guessing at that time, presumed blood.
Did they pick up the cup
That's correct, yes, sir.
too?
But you assumed it was blood just because of your experience and it looked like it could be blood on the street.
That's correct.
How far were you from Canton PD? Approximately. That's right.
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half. You had your cruiser with you,
I had my personal vehicle with me.
your personal vehicle. In other words, your ambulance where you could get from point A to point B if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was the scene supervisor. I wasn't leaving the scene.
Okay. But you also had subordinate folks at the scene that you could have dispatched.
Is now, but not at
Correct.
They all had cruisers
Yes, they did.
or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I'm sorry.
Or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I was the only one with a personal vehicle. Detective Sergeant Lank had a Toyota Tundra pickup truck that is not marked, but it's assigned to our detective unit.
So if you wish to, as the ranking officer at the scene, you could have dispatched one or more of those officers to
I
run an errand to go do something in furtherance of the investigation. Had you wanted to.
Yeah, I actually did that.
Okay, you did. What did you
Yes.
do in that regard?
Thank you for your.
Remember, I sent Sergeant Good to get the leaf blower.
Got it. You also know that Canton PD has evidence collection bags at Canton PD.
Yes,
You also know that they have materials and tools to gather biological material, correct?
we do have swabs, yes.
And those swabs go in little containers to maintain their sanitary nature, correct?
That is correct.
In other words, if you see a blood stain, you don't just walk up with a Kleenex that you find on the ground and wipe it up. There's your blood stain. There's a process for gathering that type of evidence, correct?
Sure, if you're looking for DNA, you can use a bloody Kleenex, to your point.
It'd be kind of an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. My point exactly.
But if you're a mile from
You
the
too.
MPD,
Yeah,
you could have gone back and gotten a swab,
could have.
but you didn't.
Just-
Didn't want to because of the weather, because you just said, because it's an emergency, and we thought it was an emergency there. I mean, the storm was coming down terribly. And I believe if we didn't collect that biological matter, we weren't going to get that biological matter.
But Canton PD was a mile and a half away, 4 or 5 minutes. from
In
our direction.
a blizzard,
Still, in a blizzard, look, it's 3 minutes in
mm,
good weather, probably 4, 5, 6 minutes in a blizzard, correct?
I'm not sure.
So let's call it 12, 15 minutes You certainly could have gone back. If you wanted to, you could have dispatched one of your officers to go back and get swabs and properly collect the blood material.
Sure. And I believed 15 minutes would have made a difference.
And what you did instead is, well, 15 minutes would have made a difference, but you asked Sergeant Good to drive to his house and get a leaf blower.
Yes, and while he was doing that, we were documenting the scene with photographs.
You could have documented the scene with photographs even if you went back and get a swab. What's the difference?
Because we were ongoing. It was ongoing. I wasn't leaving the scene.
I didn't ask you to leave the scene. I mean, I didn't ask if you were
I
leaving the scene.
needed the other officers. We talked about scene security. I already let one officer go. I now have 3 left. We're securing that scene.
So you saw pink stains in the snow.
Hold on a
correct?
minute.
That's correct.
And you said, Officer Good, probably called him Sean,
No,
Sarge, go home.
I haven't
and
even
get a leaf blower.
thought
That is
that the
correct.
plow driver could
You could
have.
have said, Officer Mulaney, get your butt over to Canton PD and pick up 10 swabs, correct?
He wouldn't have had access to the swabs.
Oh, so now one of your officers could have gotten swabs, even if a lieutenant, a ranking lieutenant.
You think it's
dispatched
possible?
To go get a swab.
Because he doesn't have access to
He'd have a lot more
the
evidence.
BCI, the Office of BCI, where our stuff is kept.
Could you have made a phone call?
No, nobody there would have had access at that time. It was only Officer Dever on the desk.
So
Karen
who's the
Reed-
only
Karen
person
Reed
that could have
they
gotten
know.
those swabs?
Sergeant Lang could have gotten him as well.
So Sergeant Lang could have too,
Sure.
but you didn't say that.
No, definitely didn't.
What you did do, however, is you went to the neighbor's house. Happened to be Tom Keller, correct?
The lieutenant of detectives, yes.
Right. And Lieutenant Kelleher gave you red Solo cups.
Yes. I asked for plastic or glass containers. He had solo cups, and I utilized them.
The same kind of Solo cups that we all see at backyard barbecues.
Yep, they hold liquid.
Do we have a
Terrific.
photo of the plow?
They're also not sealed, correct?
They are not.
They're also not used normally.
Attorney Allen.
I mean, they were here. They're not normally used for evidence collection, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
Exactly, Bella.
And then you decided we needed to transport that very important biological material back to Canton PD for storage and safety, right?
That's correct.
And why was it important to transport that blood material so quickly? What are the factors that you considered, weighing balance, in terms of getting that material back to Canton PD in good condition, sanitary condition?
So a criminalist could extract a proper DNA sample.
What would happen, for instance, if that blood material, I don't
Right,
know,
Bethany.
were contaminated?
But I wondered about no
Contaminated.
numbers.
You tell me,
Cameras?
you're a professional.
So DNA is pretty hardy, pretty forensically stable. The only things that are going to harm it are radiation, ultraviolet light, harsh chemicals such as bleach. That's not present here. I wasn't. Then you would have 2 sets of DNA when it's tested, which would benefit you.
Well, depends on whose DNA it is.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, Mom, you're right.
Yes.
So where did that footage go, Bethany?
While you were, I'm going to stay on this for a second.
Did they actually
So obviously, there's a reason why blood swabs or biological swabs are handled with such care. For instance, a DNA analyst is going to put on gloves.
Correct.
Oftentimes, they're going to put on a mask.
What?
I don't know about
They
that.
never
Oftentimes,
asked
they put on
for it?
gloves. Is that right?
It depends what they're testing.
Right.
Yeah.
But in order to go out and collect something, you'll see CSI.
Freaking serious
forensic
right now?
investigators in full body suits when they
Sure.
walk into a crime scene.
Yeah, you can.
Because you don't want to contaminate the scene
Corruption.
with your own hair off your arm or an eyelash falling into a blood stain, correct?
That is correct.
So there are protocols. I mean, you said just a second ago, Mr. Gallagher, well, it's DNA, unless somebody pours bleach in it, you're pretty much golden, right? That's not quite the fact, is it?
And that's not quite what I said.
No, it's not quite what you said. You were
That's the first thing
suggesting that
they
it's
should
hardy
have
enough
done
that
that
it
night
wouldn't
was
matter.
walk around
No,
and
no.
wake everybody asses up.
And
Get
there's multiple people's DNA,
camera
so then it's
footage.
everybody.
No, I simply asked what you meant by contamination.
Okay, so it could be contaminated with debris, is that right?
Sure, it can.
It could be contaminated with other people's DNA, is that right?
It can.
It could be contaminated with foreign items, foreign either aerosols or somebody
I agree, man.
spill it when they're talking, correct?
Sure.
Contaminated with 1,000 bags.
Hypothetically,
Right. Of course, these solo cups didn't have lids on them, right?
they did not.
They were open.
Yes.
You didn't photograph where you picked up the samples.
No.
You didn't document where you picked up the samples.
No.
So if the samples were in 6, how many solo cups were there?
6.
6 solo cups. We don't know as we sit here where each of those solo cups contents came from specifically, do we?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Then those solo cups with no lids were placed into a bag, right?
That's correct.
You said on direct examination that this was a brown paper bag, right?
It is. Stop and Shop, I believe.
And you said that Stop and Shop bag is, other than
Me too.
having the words Stop and Shop on it versus
Yeah.
evidence on it, basically the one and the same thing.
Same dimensions, made out of the same materials, yes.
Right. But with an evidence bag,
You're listening
You know
to
exactly
Karen Retrial Day
where it came
9.
from and who's handling it.
Not necessarily.
Comes from a manufacturer
Sure.
whose job it is to secure those bags so that they are not mishandled, so they can have some
How
sort
did
of
Terry
bona
have
fide
John's
that
phone?
they're clean and ready to accept
Didn't he have it
evidence.
on?
In, say, for instance, I don't know, the investigation
Solo
of a
cup.
homicide of a police officer.
Okay.
Important stuff, right?
We're not at a homicide of a police officer at this point.
I'm just talking about evidence bags in general. Evidence bags in general. In other words, I'm trying to think of some of the most important investigations around. The manufacturers of those evidence bags manufacture them and send them in a way so that their bona fides, the provenance of those bags is maintained, correct, and protected.
That's the way they ship them, yes.
Right. And Kenton PD pays extra money for those bags for that very purpose.
I'm sure they do, yes.
You mentioned almost tongue in cheek, look, except for the price,
Yeah.
they're probably pretty close.
Yes.
There's a reason that there's a price difference, right?
What would the reason, what's the reason?
Well, it's not the shop, I can go pay 10 cents
Yeah.
for that bag, because I don't really give a hoot where it's been, or who's handling it,
No, you
right?
can't.
It's got my milk and my eggs in it, really don't care.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know how they price it, because of how they package it. I don't have any knowledge of that.
Well, you're the one that mentioned the price. I'm just
Oh,
trying to
no, no,
make a
no.
point.
Yeah, I
There's a
agree
reason-
with you on that.
I'm sorry, we're speaking over each other. Okay.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, Mr. Young, you gotta wait.
Yep.
There's a reason. My point is, there's a reason, right?
Yes.
That evidence bags are more expensive because there is a way they're manufactured and they're taken care of, and Canton PD is willing to pay that extra price, like every other law enforcement agency, because of that, correct? All right. So they're not quite the same, are they?
No.
Right. He's just making these faces like,
Those solo cups were placed in the evidence bag uncovered.
Yes.
The evidence bag was then placed in Sergeant Lank's vehicle.
It was closed and Sergeant Lang transported it to his vehicle. Yes.
When you say closed, you mean the top of it was rolled up
Correct.
or folded over.
Correct.
like between each answer, he'll go,
Wasn't forensically sealed.
Not at that time, no.
There was no evidence tape that went on it.
Not at that time, no.
Matter of fact, the cups were still open.
Don't just get the news, understand what the news means.
"Good, we don't care about your commercials."
Liquid blood and liquid water, like
That's correct.
snow.
That's correct.
And you indicated that those were,
Doing it.
at least you
That would
believe,
be-
those were placed in an evidence locker, temporary
Mhm.
evidence locker, correct?
No, the blood samples were put in a refrigerated unit.
My mistake. I thought the refrigerator was the temporary storage locker. It's different?
Karen,
Yes, lockers are not refrigerated. That's where the glass would go into a locker.
Okay. This was placed into an evidence refrigerator.
That's correct.
That was to maintain the integrity of the sample, the biological sample inside the cups, correct?
That's correct.
You have an evidence log of that.
I don't. No.
You've never
If
seen an
it
evidence
was
log.
as you list the 11, if they're not told in 11,400 miles.
Refrigerated evidence locker.
I removed them myself, so I know they were in the refrigerated unit
When did you remove them?
on February 1st.
Right. We're talking about January 29th. They were taken to Canton PD by Officer Lang, Sergeant Lang, on January 29th. I'm just asking, well, let me ask a foundational question. Does Canton PD maintain something called evidence logs?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not the evidence officer.
No.
There is, it's all computerized.
Right.
So like I explained earlier, when they do get logged in,
Oh, really?
the officer puts the description of the property, hits the space bar, and the computer generates an evidence number.
Right. And that evidence number is associated with just that piece of evidence.
Just that piece of evidence, correct?
And every time it's checked out or put back in, there's a log created, correct?
Yeah, they do it by computer, yes.
It's a digital fingerprint.
Correct.
All right. I mean, you're a former narco specialist, right?
Mhm.
You did narcotics for years, right?
I did.
Drugs, about the most sensitive thing out there, right? I mean, you get a bottle of fentanyl. You're not just going to set it on the evidence subject's desk. You're going to make sure that damn thing gets logged exactly how it's supposed to, correct?
Of course.
Because it needs to have a trace of where it goes and who touches it and who has access to it.
I can't believe
That is
Al Jackson's
Never
trying to tell
seen
him
an
how he
evidence
should
log
already know how to do his
for
job,
these
which they did
taken
not do.
from 34 Fairview and supposedly put into the, well, not supposedly because you took them out,
Karen
and
Ring.
ultimately went into a refrigerated evidence log.
Yeah, I wouldn't have access to the evidence log. Our evidence room is a very strict process. There's only 2 people that can even have access to the permanent, once it goes into permanent evidence. And it's the admin sergeant that changes the custody when it comes out for court, if an item has to come out for court, or it has to be transported to another agency, or if an officer needs it removed from evidence for further inspection, the admin sergeant would take care of that.
That's the way it's.
Mr. Jackson, you're not going to finish today, right?
No, I'm
In
not.
2 minutes.
Two questions, and I'm also.
All right, 2 questions.
Thank you. That's the way it's supposed to work, correct?
Yes.
But you've never, as you sit here,
All the judges
you've never seen an evidence log
all the time.
determining where that blood went and who was handling it between January 29th and February 1st.
I have never seen an evidence log.
That's all I had, Rory, at least at this time.
All right, Lieutenant, we're gonna have you come back tomorrow morning.
Thank you,
when
Ron.
the jury files that you can file it right now.
Thank you.
So juries, that's it for today. The same 3
Wrapping up for
precautions.
today.
Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation.
She sits there and rocks back and forth in her chair.
Read anything about it. Please disregard it and let us know tomorrow and be very careful with your.
Hi, Homesteader.
All right, see you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, so going, please. Close your notebooks, follow me.
Goodbye. Did she just say goodbye to the mic? I can't with her. Okay, I'm going to end the stream over on YouTube since it's over. And